How you? I'm not on? Wow, that's pretty impressive. I'll have to whisper. Well, my name is Frank Williams, and I've got to meet John back there in the control room, and he's got me wired up. I feel like I'm on Star Trek with this thing on. And maybe I'll get beamed up today. I don't know. So good to be here. I'm with Latin American Missions and the Forest Park Church of Christ in Valdosta, Georgia. We have been up here this weekend in Marshfield for a presentation of our work. We had 5 of us came in from all different parts of the country. I live in Henderson, Tennessee, and where Freed-Hardeman University is located. My wife is a dorm parent there. I used to work at Freed-Hardeman. We had Kirk Brothers with us, who you'll see his name here in this presentation. Kirk is president of Heritage Christian University, and he's actually over our curriculum at the school. We had John Farber from Florida, who handles our medical mission group. We had Kerry Gillis with us, who's over our Yes To campaigns, which I'll share with you. I've got Greg Floyd here. Greg works with us. He's one of our ambassadors that goes around. He and I kind of travel together. He's my chauffeur, and he is really good about directions. Anyway, I'm just really glad to be here. So I want to go through some things and share some things with you, and I hope that this will maybe. Do we have any elders in here? Okay, you're one of the elders. Well, good. I want to share with you a work that I hope that you'll be excited about. I really wish we'd, first off, thank you for letting me come. I think Brother Bright over there was the one, or Colin probably contacted y'all. Y'all really didn't invite me. We just invited ourselves, you know. I'm one of those kind of guys that goes around and invites myself. But we're just wanted to share with you some of the things that we're being doing in Latin America. The church is growing exponentially in several areas of the world. And I will tell you that one of those areas is the Philippines. Another area is Africa. And the other area that's growing very well is the Latin American and anything south of our border. People are, I guess I better not lean on this. See, y'all be calling the medics here in just a minute. Anyway, so we have been doing this for a long time, and I just wanted to share some of that with you in the hopes that you will see some things that might be beneficial for y'all to be involved with. Here's a list of those of us who work full-time to a certain extent. Kirk Brothers being president of Heritage Christian University in Alabama. Of course, he's trying to run a university, and that's his main focus. But the rest of us are running around all over the place trying to raise funds and to share the work in Latin America. Now, we're going to see if this works. We're not sure it's going to work. Okay, the volume is not going to work, but I'll just speak through some of this. This is David Shannon. David is the president of Freed-Hardeman University, and David has been on several trips with us. Of late, he has not been going with us because he's trying to run a university. This is Kirk Brothers, president of Heritage Christian.
It goes back to the
And the next gentleman coming up, I believe, is Kyle Butt. And Kyle is very involved with Apologetics Press, and he may have been out here at some point in time. Kyle's a great guy, good author, does a lot of work for the kingdom. And the next gentleman coming up is Mike Houts. Mike is a NASA scientist. He works with fusion research. He's considered a genius in that field. He does a lot of work with us at the school. So these four guys, and I bring them up to let you know that we're not really we're not considered to be a vacation Bible school type organization. We are, I don't want to say professional, but we have the experience and things in the work that we do, and some highly qualified and notable people, at least in our part of the world, toward down to southeast and some of those areas. I wish you could hear them speak, but obviously that's not going to happen. So, all right. Well, here is some things that I wanted to share with you. Most all of you know this probably by heart, that all authority has been given to me, and therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I've commanded you. Lo, I'm with you always to the end of the age. Now, I've taken the liberty of highlighting the word go. I also underline make disciples and baptize and then teach. But I put go in the red because sometimes we look at this passage and we think it's for somebody else, but it's not. The word go is, he is telling us, he's giving us a command that whatever we do, we need to be concerned about people's souls. And when we look at people, whether they're old like me or young like Greg is, and white, black, whatever, we need to start thinking about people when we see them as souls. So this passage here is an action passage, and it's telling us to go. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the author called Ivan Stewart. Ivan Stewart, he's gone on now to his reward. He wrote the book, Go Ye Means Go Me. And I was privileged to take one of his courses back, I don't know how many decades ago that was, but sometimes in the early 70s, I believe. But he basically said, we need to look at that as we are going through our life. We need to be thinking about sharing the gospel. And I'll just tell you one quick personal thing. Greg and I were in South Charleston, West Virginia a month or so ago. I don't remember now exactly when, but we had the opportunity. We went back to the same restaurant that we started off with, and actually we had the same waitress. And so we tried to get her to, a very nice young lady, but we tried to get her to come to the worship services that we were having at the South Charleston congregation. We just have to open our eyes to all kinds of opportunities that are around us. You know, it's not, people aren't going to just show up at most congregations. So we've got to go out and start looking and sharing the gospel. And whenever we have an opportunity, we need to try to do that. Now, when Jesus gave this command, he also gave a plan. And the plan was, he said, I want you to start right here where you are. You're going to start in Jerusalem, and then you're going to go to Judea and then in Samaria. So that was the operational aspect of his command. Now, what's that mean for you? Well, that means you start right here in Watermill, and then you would share that with somebody else. And so evangelism doesn't mean you have to go to another country, but here they were going to some of the different cities. And that gospel that they started back in right after the day of Pentecost soon spread to all over the world. I've got highlighted here a dream versus vision, and I will share with you the idea that sometimes you might dream about a lot of things. Now, the presentation I used yesterday had some clouds in it, and when I was a boy, I would look up in the clouds and I would say, oh, that looks like a horse, or that looks like an airplane, or that looks like something else. But as soon as the wind comes, that dissipates those clouds and they don't look the same anymore. So that's a dream. But now a vision is something that you actually have, and I would assume here, y'all have a vision statement for this congregation? Do you have a vision? They don't have a vision statement. Well, I would encourage you to do. Okay, well, I encourage every congregation, everybody should have a vision statement of what they want to achieve as a congregation or as an individual, and the strategies that you're going to use to reach that vision. If you don't have those laid out, you're probably still living in a dream. And so that in order to have a vision, you need to have some kind of a plan. And my suggestion to everybody is to have a written plan. And the way you have a written plan, that way you can judge how you are progressing against that written plan. You do that in marketing, you do that in business, and that's what we should be doing, for the Lord's church. So in 1958, there were two men very involved in sharing the gospel of Christ in the country of Panama. The Southern Command was located in the Canal Zone, and the United States Army had a base there. We no longer have that base because we sold the Panama Canal, or gave it back to Panama, which, by the way, has been run by the Chinese now. But in 1958, they would go down, Bill Rogers and Bob Bryson would go down to Central America, and the soldiers that were members of the Lord's church would come off the post into a building where they would meet and have worship services. Now, anybody here been in the military? Anybody here in the military? Were you in the Army? The Marines? Anybody else? You in the Marine? Air Force. Well, I was in the Army, and so if you wanted to worship, depending on what kind of MOS or job description you had, especially if you were in training, you didn't get they would march you to a, quote, Christian devotional, or you could go to a Jewish thing on a Saturday. But when you're at a full-time base situation like they were in Central America, because it wasn't a training post, they would allow them a certain amount of time to go off the post and worship. Well, Bill Rogers and Bob Bryson would come down and they would serve that congregation, still living in the United States, although Bill Rogers spent more time literally at that time. That's when they started in 1958. There was one congregation in the country of Panama, and now there's over 300 in the country of Panama, which I attribute a lot to the establishment of that particular congregation. Well, what was happening was that the Panamanians and some of the Kuna Indians that were also working for the U.S. government began to the soldiers were sharing the gospel. And it's almost like back in the 50s. In the 50s, they said the Church of Christ was the fastest growing, most evangelistic church that there was. And that was true. Well, the Kunas and the Panamanians got interested, started to become members of the Lord's church. Well, at that point, you have these young babes in Christ that need to be matured. They need to be taken from milk to meat, and there was nobody there. And the soldiers, of course, were getting transferred in and out, so there was not a whole lot of stability at that congregation. But so those Panamanians and Kunas that were converted needed somebody to bring them to maturity. So in 1965, they established the Bible School of the Americas. And so it has been going ever since that time, and we have been establishing congregations all over the country of Panama, and now we have helped congregations from Mexico all the way down to Chile. So we've had a lot of success in this work. There's thousands of members of the Lord's church that's been converted since 1965. This is the Bible School of the Americas. I'm going to show you some video of the Bible School of the Americas. And just see, this is Panama City, Panama. And this is the entrance into it seems it's like breaking up just a little bit, but this is our campus. We have a 25-acre campus. You're going down the main road here, and you'll see some of the buildings that we have at this point in time. We have a congregation that meets here, a large auditorium. We have classrooms with single students apartments we just passed. These are married students. apartments. These apartments have 2 bedrooms. That used to be a children's home. Now it's an administrative building and possible expansion for more students. So this, like I said, the school has been there since 1965, and in 1966 is when we bought this property. We actually had an offer from General Noriega to take over a military post out toward the coast. And we were about to get and seal that deal, but the Catholic Church didn't like that idea. And the Catholic Church put pressure on Noriega. Now, y'all remember who he is, right? He's still in jail. But Noriega, actually, he liked us. When I was going down there in the 80s, he was very helpful to us. We had military support in some of these areas that were a little suspect as far as safety goes. But we had to have some soldiers with us sometimes. But he wanted to let us have that, the Catholics fought that, and God provided this land. At that time was outside a lot of the area where it's inhabited. And let's see here. There we go. Now, here's our faculty. Ayanor is the director. Ayanor is actually an attorney that is so well respected in the country of Panama. At one time, they wanted him to be on the Supreme Court of the country of Panama. So, but he chose to be, and he's a graduate of the school. He's also has just chosen to be a full-time man of God. He's just amazing. And then there's the other 4 instructors we have there. They all have, there's about 115 years of teaching experience between all of these men. Y'all probably very familiar with Bear Valley. And if you were looking at the curriculum, this is going to mirror an awful lot of like what you would have at Bear Valley, but even more so with Heritage Christian. And I list these courses for you. You can see all the things that they have. This is a 2-year school. I want to assure you, number one, it's not Vacation Bible School. This is a school now that has some accreditation with Heritage University. And so some of these courses that they're taking, some of these students will be able to get I believe he's going to get an associate's degree, which would they get from Heritage Christian out of Alabama. So that's the first year courses. You'll see that the students come and they spend about 6 weeks. Then they get up 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the time of the year. They'll take some short courses after that. But these are the first year courses that they take. These are the second year courses. People have asked me about right here. See, where'd that little dot go? I can't see it up there very well. There's Spanish in there somewhere. Oh yeah, right at the top. Why in the world would you want to teach Spanish to people who already speak Spanish? Well, you ever heard anybody talk from Georgia? People down in Georgia have a different way of saying things. So they try to get them all back where the people from Chile have a different dialect for some of the people from Mexico. But one of the reasons is we would like our graduates eventually to be able to write their own material. And that is very important that people, if they're going to be educated, to be able to share their information, be able to put it down on paper. But that's the second year courses. We also have these short courses, and the short courses are the ones in between the 2 6 weeks areas. These gentlemen go to class 8 to 3, I believe it is, every day, 5 days a week. And they dress up. They wear their dark pants, white shirt. You would, going on campus during the time that they're in class, you'd think that they're all Mormons or something because they've got the dark pants and the white shirt. But they go up. They take this very serious. They come here with the idea wanting to share the gospel with their home areas. And that's the success of this school. We train native men to go back to their own countries. Or their own area, because number one, I'm a gringo, and I will never be able to assimilate into that culture. It just doesn't work. And you can take people and you could send them to all the kind of different areas of the world, and they're still an American. They're a North American. And so it's just very difficult to assimilate into the culture. So if you train native men, you don't have to worry about that. They already know the culture. So it really works out very well. Another question I've always had, and I'm pretty sure Bear Valley does this also, that they offer courses for the wives. So if you've ever been in ministry, if your wife doesn't support you in a ministry, you're not going to be as effective as you could be. So if the wife is there, she's committed, she's already left her home country, and she comes with her husband or maybe with her children, and she is going to be such an important part. So we have classes for the spouses, and they will be able to get, if they complete these courses, they actually get an associate's degree. So it's a pretty complex thing. Here's some of our gringo teachers. Kyle Butt. Has he ever spoken out here in this area, Kyle Butt? Kyle's one of the ones that does our apologetics press. The rest of these gentlemen that's in this in the list of teachers, you may or may not know them, but they're actually from all over the country, but they're very well qualified. This is a class that's graduated last year, and I've got a note there that shows that we've graduated about 700 preachers since 1965. So it's very successful. I was asked one time about how many are still preaching. Well, a lot of them are dead. So they've gone to get their reward. But that was from 1958, 1965, when the school started, and there's about 700 graduates. Here's a class coming up in December 7th, and this year, Greg and I will be back in Panama, Lord willing, for graduation. And it's an exciting time. These men get to talk about their aspirations and their plans. Each one of them has a goal, a written vision plan of what they want to do when they go back to their home countries. Very inspirational. And may I suggest, come be with us. From here, you would probably go to, I guess you can fly out of Springfield, but you'll probably end up going through Dallas for here. But it won't take you much more than 4 hours to get there. And we'd love to have you if you want to do that. And that way you can learn a little bit more about our facility, about our work. Now, that's the school. We also offer short-term missions that people can get involved with. It's completely separate financially from the school, but it gives an opportunity, I think, of growth, an opportunity to, let me put it this way. If you don't want to change your life, don't go. But if you want to have an opportunity to change your spiritual outlook in your life, you should go. It is an amazing thing. My first trip was in 83 or 84. Greg's was in 86, do we think? To get my age and yours, well, you don't think about how many years ago. Now I'm thinking it was like 3 decades ago or 4 decades ago. That's how you progress. Well, we do these kinds of medical missions. We do Yes To, and we do future preachers training workshops. In addition to that, which is not on this list, if there's been disasters, we form disaster teams. Sometimes we do construction teams that people, we may even go down and build a church building. We've done that in 1 week and built a church building. I was in Nicaragua one year, and we built a church building. We just hung the lights. And so we came back the next day, all the lights had been stolen. And so it's just, that's the way it is in some of these countries. We are so blessed to be in this country. And I'd like to take a lot of these young people, especially those running around complaining about everything in this country, and take them down there and see what the rest of the world is like. It shows you, number one, you don't want to live under a dictator. Number two, you do not want government medicine. You could literally die waiting for a doctor to treat you. I show you this slide just about every time I make a presentation. This is Dr. Jim City. Some of you may have remembered Dr. Jim City if you went to Harding. Jim's got a building down there named after him. I got to be with him. He and I went to a witch doctor's hut one time. That was kind of interesting. But this little baby was, these are the Kuna Indians who live off the northern coast of Panama on these islands. So this baby was brought to us, and Jim is working on this little baby. The baby wasn't eating, and he's listening to the baby's heart. We tried to find we did not have an IV needle. The baby was so hydrated, it was just a very difficult time trying to get some fluids back in that baby. Now, other than trying to get him to the hospital in Panama City, there wasn't much we could do. But I don't know what happened to that baby. But these Indians, and there's a book out called Beauty is a Ring in the Nose that talks about these Indians. They are just amazing people. But here we are, and we can't heal the people like the Lord could heal the people, but you go out and show as much compassion as you can. The next time you're in a doctor's office and you're sitting there and you're complaining about how long you've had to wait, I want you to remember this picture. This is in Manjarres, Honduras, and it's rather warm there, and they're out there sitting in the sun, waiting to see the doctors. Sometimes we do minor surgery, take off some cysts or things like that. We don't do any major surgery, but we will try to get them to places where they can have these type of procedures. This is one of our doctors working with this elderly lady, and we have translators that work with us. And sometimes you just have to go get the people that you find that are sick. So this is, they had a chair, and so the guys went out and got this gentleman to bring him to be treated. Now this fellow right here walking down the street, and maybe right behind this, of course, there could be other cattle coming down the street. You may have donkeys or burros, and then you may have cars and motorcycles. A lot of these outlying places, it's not like you go to some kind of a nice city. These are areas that are poor. And, you get a better reception a lot of times for the gospel of Jesus Christ in a less affluent area. So I had to take a picture of him. He was beautiful. He did not like me, by the way. But maybe because when I looked at him, I was thinking about a hamburger. I don't know, sure. But you can only eat so much beans and rice, I'll tell you. This is Zambrano. We were there last summer, and that's our waiting line at Zambrano. We took over a local civic center building. They let us have that. They don't charge us for it because we're bringing in medicine and to treat their people. They know we love the people. So that's the way that's set up. This was our crew 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, I think it was. That was there. Now, the interesting thing is the lady in the red shirt with the white hair, she and I met and have not seen each other since 1989. And we were in Honduras. I'm drawing a blank on the name now, but Satanijas. And so she says, "You don't remember me." Well, I didn't, because she didn't have white hair the last time I saw her. And of course, I had more hair. But it was great to see her, and her name's Donna. She's one of our nurses, and she goes on some of the campaigns. But it was just like we've never been apart. It was just like brothers and sisters all over again. There's a bond that we form together when we go on these campaigns, and hopefully maybe some of you or this congregation would be able to do that. This is one of our pediatricians, and he's a big hit because he's brought all these things for the kids. The lady on the right that you see there at the white scrub outfit on, she is actually a doctor for the country of Honduras. We converted her 3 years ago. And ever since she's been converted, she's been active, and she comes and she helps us in these campaigns. And so we will see her again next year. Are we going to David? No. That's all right. You don't have to look it up. I can't remember now where it is. But we have a young preacher there that's, we will go somewhere and have these kind of campaigns. And then we try to follow up these medical campaigns with just purely evangelistic. We have an optometrist to go with us, and I love this little boy. He is just chilling out with these sunglasses. He thinks he's so cool, and he was. But if you like pictures of children, you love children, you will want to go. That's one of our pharmacists. He's from Georgia. He's from Buford, Georgia. And then we've got some young ladies from Knoxville there, some graduates of Freed-Hardeman University, and some high school students. But they're packing medicine. We used to pack medicine in the United States. The Forest Park Church actually had a medical license or pharmacy, a storage building. But now it's gotten so with government regulations, we can't take medicine in without, and the airlines now charge you for everything. We don't even check much of our baggage, especially if we want to see it again. But we have to unpack and pack a lot of these medications. There's some of the young people on the medical team, our medical team, and then here's the pharmacy crew that's on the right. And so here, once they get to the area where they pick up their medicine, they are asked if they would be interested in studying the scriptures. And so that's what these folks are doing here at the very end. And then these are the folks that actually accepted the idea about being baptized or wanting to study. And the result is that many of them have put on Christ in baptism. We explained to them that all the blessings and everything, salvation is in grace, and the grace is found in Jesus Christ. These are some of my brothers that I kind of work with Honduras more than any other countries. But all of these folks, except for this gringo young lady, Kelly, who's one of our translators, I work with most every one of these guys in helping them secure funds to preach. The guy in the middle with the gray shirt, Armando, just lost his vehicle, I think it's a month ago now, in some of the floods. So while we were looking at hurricanes, they also got a lot of rain from some of those, and the floods in Honduras, he lost his little vehicle. So we're looking at replacing that. It's going to cost us, I think we said $15,000 to replace that. Now, we also have, besides those medical campaigns, we have these Yes To, which is young. We try to take younger people down and help them learn about evangelism, help them know how to do a Bible study. And it is an eye-opening experience to see folks, these young people getting involved. They go door to door. Now, I know there's a lot of people who don't like the door-to-door idea here in the United States. Some people even have signs like, "Don't bother me," no soliciting, that type of thing. By the way, proselytizing by knocking on doors is not illegal, even though some people say, no, it's not soliciting. That's not soliciting according to the Supreme Court. We have those Yes To campaigns. Kerry, who's the director in the New York Yankees hat, and they get these young people and they go and they knock doors and have these Bible studies. And here's one of his groups. We also have, that's Brian up in the top, all the way in the back. He's director of the Florida School of Preaching. He goes with us as well. Now here's some of the results that we had this past summer. We knocked on 2,400 doors. We developed 5,700 plus contacts. We've got 333 follow-ups that they were working on when we left. And we do know, by the way, there are others, even after we left, they continue to teach those people in the contacts. So we are still, people are still obeying the gospel based on what was precipitated by those terms, the mission work. Had 1,000 Bible studies. Saw 1,100 patients. We filled 4,100 prescriptions. And we've had 55 baptisms that week, 2 restorations, and I say we've had some other baptisms since that time. We have some campaign schedules, and Greg has got some of those. We also have a brochure called Possibilities that tells us all about our work, and he's got some here, and also we do a quarterly newsletter that tells you what's going on. So that's kind of the work that we are directly involved with, and of course Kirk Brothers, which he kind of does his own thing, but through us, is Future Minister Training Camps. And what that's about is to getting young men from the different areas of the country, and I think he's done them. He's even done them in Brazil, which is actually Portuguese. So try to get young people to think about being a gospel preacher. You know, in this country, we say, well, you need to get a college education, you need to get maybe become a lawyer or a doctor or all this kind of thing. But you know, I don't consider myself a preacher, and you probably already know that. But we need to start we need to raise up leaders in the Lord's church. We need to encourage young people to want to be a gospel preacher. And I'll tell you why a lot of them don't, because they hear mommy and daddy complain about the preacher. We need to raise up young people to want to be an elder in the Lord's church. And that's another thing we don't do a very good job here in the States. But anyway, Kirk goes out and does this. And here's some things that they do. There we go. Here's one of the classes. This is Chuck Morris. Chuck is actually doing a song leading class. That is one of the areas that really struggles there. And here's some of the different classes. And we give them a certificate. And one of the things that's happened that's interesting, these young people then actually end up coming to the school, which is really a wonderful thing. I think I just hit a dead spot here somehow. Okay, so as I think the bell's going to ring. I saw a clock here somewhere, maybe in 10 minutes or whatever it is. I want to ask you a question. How much is a soul worth? How much is a person's soul worth? Well, here's something to think about. In November of 2022, the world's population went over 8 billion people. But that's not really right. For those of us that are members of the Lord's church, we should be thinking about 8 billion souls, because the majority of those souls, according to the scriptures, are not going to heaven. And that ought to concern us. We need to be excited about sharing the gospel. Well, those 8 billion souls are something we should focus on. You and I all know that we have friends and family that are not saved, and that really ought to concern us. So how much is a soul worth? Well, let me give you an example. I love dogs. I love animals. But in 2022, on the 990 federal form, they raised $456 million for animals. $456 million. Contrast that to the average member of the church probably gives only 4% of what they've been prospered. Now, the lowliest Jew gave 10%, but we're averaging about 4%. So those animals get more attention from a lot of people than lost souls. To give you a true life example, this member of the Lord's church received $700,000. They were told they could spend this on any charity that they wanted. $700,000. Well, here's how this member of the church spent this money. They gave $400,000 of it to a secular university. Now, I will say this, secular and university, but there may be, in my opinion, there are, quote, schools that associated with the churches of Christ that I wouldn't give money to at this point. But they gave it to a university which is woke, promotes homosexuality. Well, that's, you know what I'm talking about. $400,000. Well, they did give $200,000 to cancer research. I'm all for that. My dad died of colon cancer. It was a terrible death. But I believe in trying to cure cancer. Now we got to their fire department. They gave $35,000 to the fire department. I believe in fire departments. My son worked for the county fire department there in Tennessee for a while. But, they needed supplies. They got $35,000. Now they've turned to be spiritual, and they gave $35,000 for mission work. And then a children's home, which I consider spiritual, they gave $30,000. How would you have spent it? What's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with that picture? Are we upside down or what? $700,000. I gave $400,000 to what I consider an evil project. And they gave $35,000 to mission work. So, I want to ask you one more time. How much is a soul worth? Well, I know how much a soul was worth my wife. There's no way I want my wife not to go to heaven. You and I probably have children who are not faithful. What would you give to save their soul? I will tell you, everything. Everything. Whether or not you're committed, but how much is a soul worth? That's how much your soul was worth right there. I mean, you can come into this church building, and you can go through all the motions. Is that the last one? Well, that's a good image to leave it on, isn't it? And we're about to worship our God. We're about to partake of the Lord's Supper. Not him, the picture, but our Lord did for us. We would love for y'all to consider helping our work. 60 plus years, over 700 preachers, and a number of souls we cannot count. I appreciate you letting me come here today, and Greg's got some of these pamphlets. If you would like to have one of those, just raise your hand, or he can pass some of these out. I got a whole truckload out there in my pickup. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I know I'll be around for a few minutes after worship today. Thank you.